giving to our department. So thank you for that.
Okay, before we vote, Glenn, you wanted to speak, and did you give me a signal you wanted to say something? Yeah. Come on. You're the chair, or are you just on it? I don't.
Yeah, I'm still chair.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll go be it.
I haven't seen you since you were running shirtless in my neighborhood. I'm sure that's an ordinance violation, so I would urge you to put on a shirt when you're running by my house.
You should join me.
Yes.
I've been doing that for years. So I was actually driving by, and so let me just pop in. I know I talked with Commissioner Minor about this at his 5:30 session that he has before the meetings. And the reason why I brought this up, and we put together an LTC about this, and I want to read that into the record again. The Black Affairs Advisory Committee concurs with Alfredo Ramirez, Director of Miami-Dade Police Department, that strategic enforcement, increased prosecutions, high visibility, and community dialogue will help deter, reduce crime in the Art Deco Cultural District, and not a policy of zero tolerance enforcement that will create additional community distrust and historically target minorities and people of color. So, zero tolerance is a loaded phrase, as you guys probably understand, and it means different things for different people. And I brought that up because I was even sending some posts that I saw on social media to Commissioner Minor, and he saw that it meant different things to different people. For some people, it means that it's open season, right? And from what I've always heard, because of the Goodwill Ambassador program we have, God Squad, etc., that we don't have a zero tolerance program or policy in the city. So I just want to make sure that we're not sending the wrong signal to the people who are coming here. You have a lot of people, and we've heard even some phrasing used recently at a board meeting in reference to the marketing plan that the city's undergoing. Basically saying that the pieces did not include European families, that the people didn't look like me, and you're marketing the people who are destroying us. That's loaded. And that's unacceptable. So I just wanted to make sure, when you say zero tolerance, it means different things to different people, and usually it's negative, right? Zero tolerance to me is that when you see somebody, you don't give them the opportunity to respond. You just lock them up. It doesn't mean having a policy that has the Goodwill Ambassadors that engages people, that gives them information, guidance, hands out masks, gives out directions. When the curfew was announced, the Goodwill Ambassador were some of the people who were going out calming people down. They de-escalate things so that the police don't have to get involved. So words matter. And I just want to make sure, a lot of people don't have the benefit of hearing this nuance, right? All they hear is zero tolerance. And I still feel that's not the right wording that we need to use, because the city leads on, resiliency, historic preservation, LGBTQ rights, many things. And the city needs to lead on this also, in my humble opinion, as an almost 20-year resident of Miami Beach. Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Sure. Thanks, Glenn.
Good to see you again. So we've been tweaking some of the words. How do you feel about, because I agree with you, zero tolerance can be viewed differently by different people and can be explained, but people aren't going to hear all these explanations. They're just going to see the words, right?
Right.
So we like assertive, I think. We like consistent. So how do you feel about consistent, assertive enforcement of call and not having the zero tolerance?
Yes, per the LTC we sent, we want strategic enforcement We want increased prosecutions. A lot of the suggestions that Commissioner Minor, we totally support. We don't want a revolving door.
Yeah,
You know-
so I will add the point, though, that you know there'll be others in our community that if we say enforcement instead of zero tolerance enforcement, there'll be people in our community that will think that we're signaling to the police that they should not do their job in the way they have been doing it.
What I don't want to see, I don't think anybody wants to see, is that Rural Palm incident keep on happening. We have 5 officers who have been arrested as a result of that. I don't want to see that, right? Because the person who was using their phone recording the incident could have been me, could have been my son, and that's unacceptable. And that's my point. We cannot have an atmosphere by which people, black people, people of color, do not feel that it's safe or we are welcome to come to Miami Beach. Right? I've told this story to Steve before, and I think others. A couple of years ago, I came home, got out of my car, and 2 realtors came up to me, 2 white females came up to me and gave me a card. And they said, "Nice to meet you. Could you give this to the owner?" Right? That's recent. I won't tell you exactly what I said to them in response. But I told them, look, not only am I the owner, but I'm the president of the HOA. And you're not going to get any business from anybody in this neighborhood. And please get off my property. So that's something very slight. But that mindset is here because let's not be naive. When you look on social media, they call people who look like me from these different groups, apes, monkeys, all this other stuff. That's just the sterile stuff that I've seen. So what I'm trying to make sure is that we have the right language in order not to enable the worst instincts in our wonderful neighborhood that we're trying to maintain, right? My daughter, who, I'm going to always bring her up, she was the first black youth commissioner in the history of Miami Beach. Only Silver Knight. You got to get you on that one. Only Silver Knight on Miami Beach. And what she did was, and this is something that I think that was supposed to be brought up today too, she put together a program, the MB History Program, where they did videos, and the mayor was in one of them with his son, talked about the historic contributions of the LGBTQ community, the Jewish community, the black community, and Hispanic community to the development of Miami Beach. And that's very, very important. Because people need to understand that Miami Beach, the city of Miami, was built with Bahamian hands. So we made the place cool. And then if you Google, I was going to look at this really quick. If you Google Wikipedia on Carl Fisher, he doesn't even state that he had very racist policies towards blacks and Jews on the beach. He promised a view without a Jew, right? So we have a history that we need to get past. And I'm just trying to make sure that we don't go back.
And I think we're all on board with you there. I have my own history that I want to get past from many years ago when there were certain restaurants where I was not welcome to eat at. So, and I will say that I'll speak for myself on the incident that you mentioned. I know that I would not consider some of the actions that were taken relative to those arrests that anybody would think that they were doing zero tolerance enforcement, and that what happened would qualify. But I'll leave that there because I guess the case is pending. So with that, Mayor, I think we've heard everything, and I know others want to speak, but yes. I would be comfortable with consistent, assertive enforcement if my colleagues would be comfortable with that.
All right, let's go through. Commissioner Fernandez, because words do matter.
Yes, and words do matter. And I think also example matters. Talking about history, I'm younger and the youngest person on this dais. I'm 35 years old, but in my lifetime, I've been denied a professional opportunity because of who I am. And so even young people my age have experienced that. But I think at the same time, we've been a city that has proven to be a leader. A city that has proven to redefine terms. And I think in a way we could, and as I'm thinking here, I think we may actually have an opportunity. Because I think we could set the example of what really is the meaning of zero tolerance. The Miami Beach Police Department does an assertive compliance-driven zero tolerance. But, this makes me think a lot about Tallahassee. In Tallahassee, you look at rights of people, rights based on religion, sex, and pregnancy, and national origin, and age, and handicap, and marital status. But you don't have the things that we have here in Miami Beach, like gender identity, sexual orientation, and others, that we've been the leader in saying, no, this is what it really means. And we've helped then other jurisdictions and other governments walk and progress and help society progress. And I think we almost have a social responsibility, because we are the progressive community who we are, to say, no, zero tolerance is not what everyone else is doing. Zero tolerance is how Miami Beach is doing it, the right way of doing it. And I think that's the opportunity that we have here, that we respect each other and that we do it the way that it should be done, and in a way that is in keeping with the spirit of what Glendon is speaking of. Because the fact that some people have acted wrongly doesn't mean that we should act that way.
Okay.
So that's my thoughts on it, and that's why I'm I believe we should go this route. If we're talking about zero tolerance, let's define it. Let's say it is compliance driven. It's an assertive. It is a compliance driven zero tolerance.
Okay. Commissioner Richardson, did you have an amendment or not?
So I think, thank you for recognizing me. I think, and I appreciate your comments, Commissioner Fernandez. So what I would like to see is either to say consistent assertive enforcement, or if we say consistent assertive zero tolerance enforcement, then in a whereas we define what we mean by zero tolerance enforcement. And that is, I think your words, the compliance driven, that we don't mean that someone's not going to try to de-escalate a situation. And so I would ask the sponsor and others how, which option I would be comfortable with either option, because I think we're getting to the same place.
Go
Through
ahead.
the mayor, if I could just respond.
You are recognized.
Yep, no, and I appreciate it, and I think all the perspectives here are very helpful, and I want to recognize Glendon and his committee for the fine work that they're doing, and I read every word of those LTCs, Glenn, so I appreciate that. I think my colleague very helpfully gave two options. As the sponsor, I like door number 2. I do think words matter. I think we've already included consistent, assertive. I think compliance-driven is also in that language, and I think we can, to your second option, Commissioner, include that in a whereas clause.
And is this a resolution, so it's only going to be heard today?
Yep. Okay, so I'm going to get to you. You've taken his option, Commissioner Minor, you're recognized.
Thank you, and thank you, Glenn, for your comments. And we have talked quite a bit, and I appreciate your comments. I would just want to make sure, and I'm fine with all these changes. I'm not the sponsor, but I'm comfortable. I guess I would want to make it clear that when we have all these items in, I think what we've seen around the country is there are cities that are not enforcing their laws. The police are, I think, told to stand down. The prosecutors are not prosecuting intentionally. The judges are setting no or little bail, and that is not what we want here as a city. I think I've spent more time on this issue than any other issue by far in our city. Chief, we're on the phone all the time. Alina and I talking the prosecution items. I just want to make sure that is very clear that as a city, whatever we define and the terminology we use of zero tolerance, and I'm comfortable with everybody who said here, that it does mean that our laws are going to be enforced.
Okay. With that, Commissioner Areola,
Glendon, I want to thank you for everything you do for the city, your commitment, having worked here, and then all the work you do in your neighborhood and all the committees, and just being eloquent today. And I know it's, sometimes these things are very tough to come up here and say them publicly, so I commend you. And your words resonated with me. And I share your concerns too, so everything we can do to get better as a city, you've got my commitment. I think all of us are on the same page on that, But we do have a crime problem, and we're trying to address it, and so we want to make sure that the message gets out that I'll speak for myself on this issue, we are not going to be like, quote-unquote, progressive cities like San Francisco, Portland, Seattle, that actually have a very different policy when it comes to drug use, criminal behavior, and whatever they want to label it. So much so that the quality of life is gone down so much that people are leaving, fortunately they're coming to our state and our city because of the very permissive attitude that local politicians, prosecutors, and then by extension even their police departments have had to deal with. And the cities have become almost ungovernable. So, we have to figure out how to toe the line between compassion and helping people, being an inclusive city, but also upholding our laws. So, I know you appreciate what we're trying to do. It's a struggle, but I want you to know we hear you for sure. But we're trying to deal with a real problem we have right now with crime, and we're going to keep working. We'll keep making mistakes, but we'll keep getting better as a city.
And
okay.
very quickly, I don't want anybody to ever misrepresent what I said of being soft on crime, right? I mean, I'm not saying that. In the LTC, it talks about strategic enforcement, increased prosecutions, right? I have a concealed weapon permit. So I'm not one of these, yellow, I'm a hunter. So don't get it twisted up here, right? So I want enforcement. I want it so that people are not in a revolving door and going in and out of the system, etc. I want safety too, right? We want law and order. We just want to make sure that it's equitable and people are treated fairly and are not targeted. That is my point.
And by the way, I thank you. You finished, Commissioner? I appreciate that, and I know you, so I know you're not suggesting suspending law enforcement. Okay.
We have a very good relationship. He's been to my house so many different times he can't even count.
Yeah, no, and
So I have a great relationship with PD. I watched in the MLK march with them recently.
yeah, and
We have programs we're working on right now that you're going to be hearing about this coming month. So yeah,
we by the way, that's evident, and in fact, your leadership on not just on the committee, but frankly, I think you're our homeowner association president at this point.
you haven't paid your dues yet.
I know that. Can I tell you something? You're right. And I might have said publicly I was going to, but I didn't say when.
Perpetually.
But I will say this. I mean, look, we've increased our police by 40, I think, in FTEs this year. But it is a challenge. We are different than other cities, and I always remind everybody of that in the sense that, when you talk about cities where they just arrest people, it's often their own residents that they're dealing with and certain areas of town. And we are policing a playground of other people. That's really what we have here. It's a playground of other people. Almost all of our arrests are of other people from other places, not just usually even in the county, but often from anywhere, who came here for a bender or something. I mean, they just came here to sort of let loose. And it's very hard. I mean, I tell people that our cops have the hardest job in the world because they are asked to put their hands on people more than most cops will ever do it, because frankly, they're called to places where there's something happening. They're not looking for the issue. They're actually being called usually to rescue somebody. The fights that they break up are between people that need that fight broken up for. And to have an officer put themselves in the middle of that, I call every officer who gets injured. I'm amazed how many get injured. And they're often not, kind of injuries you hear about, a broken thumb or a fractured elbow or something like that. But by the way, who puts themselves in that position on a regular basis, knowingly, other than our police? So I really feel like it's a very hard job for them, and I think our messaging is important. I'm glad we went through this exercise because I do want people to know, you come here and you're smoking or you're drinking, we're going to really demand you put it out, and if you feel like wanting to get arrested, well, then just tell the officer, screw you, and then it's your decision, not anyone else's. But we have to have this level of order in these public spaces because, frankly, it's not even our residents who are typically in danger. Our residents just don't go to these areas anymore, which is in and of itself the issue that I can't stand. But it's guests who are in danger and our officers who are in danger. That's literally the two groups we're dealing with, and we're trying to figure out how to message that. I hope we get better at it. I salute our manager and our chief because I feel like we've made a lot of strides. But this is, our cops have the most difficult job of most cops anywhere, simply because the level of activity, and it is people smoking and drinking, so they're typically not going to have the best judgment, puts them in precarious, perilous, sometimes impossible situations that most police departments will rarely hit, once a week. Our guys hit it every single day, and so I appreciate you're a great supporter, frankly, in every way. But thank you for coming. Let's vote on this.
Mayor,
we got 100 other items.
Yeah, we've got, but we're not going to see this again. So, and if we're going to add another,
want to know what the words are.
Well, and so I've drafted up something. I'll read it out. I don't know how people feel about it.
Go ahead.
It may be horrible. So between the 5th and 6th, whereas we can say, whereas the city enforces its zero tolerance policy while always trying to de-escalate situations and seek a peaceful resolution to issues.
Okay. Chief, you okay with that?
I'm okay with that. If
Okay.
my colleague standing to my right is okay with that as well.
He may or may not be, but,
I just don't like zero tolerance, but do as you will. I just don't like the word.
I think in the sense of what you're saying as far as addressing the issue and affording the opportunity for the change of behavior and de-escalating it, if that's the intent of the commission, then I think that it's applicable in this case, and we can deal with that.
can you reread it?
Yeah. So, I mean, remember the option, I said we could either drop zero tolerance and just say enforcement or keep the zero tolerance, and I think the sponsor indicated he preferred the second, so I'm trying to find a resolution. So between the 5th and 6th, whereas, we would add a new whereas. So whereas, the city enforces its zero tolerance policy while always trying to de-escalate situations and seek a peaceful resolution to issues.
I've been okay with either. Commissioner Minor, anybody got a problem with that?
I would probably just add to the extent possible, but I'm fine with it.
I don't think that. If you want, but
I think that's implicit. Yeah.
okay. Any other? All right, let's go ahead. It's been moved by somebody.
I've moved it.
Is there seconded?
I'll second it.
All right. Are there any objections? Okay, show it passed. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on. Our